Order and ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning and welcome to the May 19th County Commission meeting. I would remind you to silence your cell phones. The meeting documents are on the end of the counter next to Commissioner Bender. And Ken is over there if you need a listening device for this meeting. With that, we will start with routine business. Item number 1 is consider a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 2 is approve the County Commission meetings from May 12, 2015. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Are there any corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 3 is bills to be paid in the amount of $466,319.08. Is there a motion?
There is. Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments?
Madam Chair,
Carnes.
this week's bills include $253,000 towards the library that we share the cost with the city.
Any other comments? I have a motion to pay the bills. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 4 is reports. The Register of Deeds official report of fees collected during April 2015 is on file at the auditor's office. Item number 5 is personnel action. A is consider a motion to approve the routine personnel action. Is there a motion?
Make that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number B is consider updates to the Minnehaha County travel and meal expense policy deferred from May 5th. Carrie Deaver. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Carrie Deaver from Human Resources. Last week we went over a couple policy changes that are being brought forward just for your consideration. The state has made some decisions about reimbursement rates for travel expenses that will be effective for them on July 1st. And we're just bringing this item to you for your consideration to see if you want to make similar adjustments in the county's rate policies. I believe last time we spoke you were interested in the financial impact that this might have to the county, and Robert Wilson prepared for you a spreadsheet summarizing expenses that have been incurred to date in the different areas, and it looks like, if I'm reading his figures correctly, the impact to this would be about $3,000 a year based on the expenses so far this year.
10, 9, 7, 4, 2. What's wrong? Sorry, Carrie.
Oh, that's fine.
Any questions for Carrie on this? Did you want to consider this?
Here, use mine.
Sorry, my computer's mixed up. So, are there any comments for Carrie on this issue? Did anyone want to make a motion on this, or do we want to just sit on it until after budget?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and that would be to approve the new travel expense reimbursement rates according to the state levels, correct? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Item number 6 is applications for abatement. We have tax exempt ones first with Kyle. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kyle Halseth, Director of Equalization. We have a unique bunch this morning. First one being for the Embrace Church, record ID 55318. This is for 2013 property taxes payable in the amount of $2,042.96. The second is for the Sioux Falls Housing Corporation, record ID 30131, 2014 property taxes in the amount of $934.45. Item C is the Carroll Institute, record ID 31420, for 2013 property taxes in the amount of $332.87. Item D is the Carroll Institute, record ID 31420, for 2014 property taxes in the amount of $2,968.95. Those are the exempt ones.
I would look for a motion for those first 4.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second for the tax-exempt properties A
Madam
through
Chair, I
D.
have a question
Commissioner
for
Barth.
Kyle, so like on the Embrace Church, they've got a different building. Is that, how did this not get put on, right off the bat shown?
They
as
had a different building, but from what I understand, it neglected to file the deed.
So those exempt properties need to make sure they get their paperwork done too.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. The next ones are owner occupied.
Yes, item E is Norman L. Rons, record ID 51381, for 2014 property taxes in the amount of $1,562.08. The next one is Ronald Treelor. This is the Omar's Market. Record ID 48243, 2013 property taxes in the amount of $371.71, and 2014 property taxes in the amount of $375.60. The last one is for Phil Kappen, record ID 41898, for 2014 property taxes in the amount of $314.61.
Is there a motion on the owner occupied?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Kyle. And then we have elderly freezes. Pam. Good morning. Good morning.
I have one this morning, and I have record ID 40000 for a freeze amount of $757.78.
Is there a motion on that one?
So moved.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second on the elderly freeze. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is notices and requests. There's a notice of the South Dakota Department of Transportation and the City of Sioux Falls and Sioux Falls Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO, for a public open house on June 1st, 2015 at 5 o'clock. Item number 8 is the planning and zoning notices. There are none. Item number 9 is a petition for compromise of lien. Jeff Barth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for DPNO 2946. The amount is $20,369.85. The applicant came in and asked for help filling out a request for compromise, and he's offering us $10,000 towards that $20,369 amount. The lien was established in 1981 for public defender services. Between 81 and 2012, the applicant has received public defender or court-appointed attorney services on 30 occasions. Hospitalization and medical expenses have also been paid in this lien. The lien has been partially compromised a couple of times. As you know, we, on an annual basis, reduce some amounts that are larger, and I think we now do 30,000. Is that right, Cindy? Yeah, but it used to be if it was more than 20,000, we would reduce it. And he's also, on 5 separate occasions, it's been reduced by a total of $3,147. Partial payments of $3,480 have also been received. The applicant wants to take care of the lien and said he could pay $7,000. He talked about all the liens forgiveness that's happened already, and he suggested that he could maybe do $10,000. If you look at the situation here, the party certainly received a huge amount of service from this county. The fact that some of the crimes charged were of the very most serious nature that anyone can be charged with in any community, and that he's currently not in prison for them shows that he must have gotten some good representation. So there's also some information in here that he may be expecting an inheritance, and this could be perhaps part of the impetus for trying to resolve this at this point. I don't believe the applicant is here, but if he is, he can make a statement. He doesn't have to come to the podium. He can say it from wherever he's seated, and he doesn't have to identify himself.
Is the applicant here? No. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, Madam Chair, You know, when I look at the seriousness of the charges that this man received, and obviously the excellence of the defense that our fellow taxpayers gave him, I would make a motion to decline compromising this lien without payment in full.
I'll second that. I have a motion and a second to to deny the compromise of lien. Are there any comments? Are there any comments? Commissioner Benega.
My only question is on these application forms, we generally get a tax return, and I know he's been in prison for a number of years, but I don't see a tax return. It's just a K-1 partnership.
Yes, that was the only documents that he could produce for us as far as his proof of income.
Okay.
Are there any other comments? Commissioner
Ken, if in fact he does get an inheritance, will this encumber that inheritance?
Technically, it can, as long as we know about it and when it happened and take the necessary actions to lay claim to it. The problem is with a lot of these things with county aid liens, I mean, if this individual had not been forthcoming and said, I'm expecting this, and you know that's why I would like to get this resolved. If we had not known that, there's really not a lot that we would see typically in advance to help lay claim to this. A lot of it, there's a lot of stuff that happens out there, you know, like when people get divorced and, you know, we have to split up lien accounts. A lot of that stuff goes on without our direct notification.
So if it's in insurance proceeds, do they look to liens before they pay it?
They can look to liens. They'll also look for any recordings at the Register of Deeds making a claim on any real or personal property within the jurisdiction. So,
Any other comments? I'm a little conflicted on this just because this person has no job, has no income, and we're being offered $10,000, and if we deny it, we might end up with nothing ever. And that's the only reason I'm conflicted by it. The seriousness of his charges is going to make him difficult to get a real high-level paying job going forward. And so is there ever going to be any money? And this is a pretty good offer. So that's why I'm conflicted. So, any other comments?
Madam Chair, I guess he did have $17,000 in income from investments. So, you know, that's... he may be able to afford living without having a job.
From investments? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Barth?
This is to deny, right?
To deny.
Bender?
Aye.
Benega?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Heiberger?
No. Motion passes 4-1. The next is opportunity for public comment. If you have anything that you would like to speak to that is not on the agenda today, this would be the time to come forward. So, seeing no one, we will go on to regular business. Item number 10 is consider an appeal of the decision of the Minnehaha County Planning Commission to approve conditional use permit number 15-23. Kevin Hookman. Just kind of tell you how this is going to go. Staff is going to give a report, and then we would have the questions for the staff. Following questions from the staff, we would follow with the applicant making his comments with anyone that is in favor of the applicant after that could make questions, and then if there are people who are opposed to this application, they would be able to speak after that time. I would remind you to keep your comments to new information and not stuff that has already been stated, and to keep your comments as brief as possible, not to repeat yourself repeatedly. And I'm wondering how many people are going to speak in opposition to this. Just 1, 2. Okay. All right. Kevin?
All right. Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. This is to hear an appeal for a Class C dairy CAFO on this property. located approximately 2.5 miles southwest of Hartford. The petitioner would like to build this dairy operation on a 10-acre parcel on kind of the northeast portion of this lot. Currently, there is a operation that is standing at the existing farmstead. It's going to be about 1,000 feet further south of this proposed dairy CAFO, which we decided is enough to call this as a new CAFO instead of joining the two because of operational styles and distance. The facility is proposed to have 990 animal units, which is one underneath the threshold for state required permit. For a dairy operation, each animal for a dairy cow is worth 1.4 animal units. So for this type of operation, he is allowed 713 animals, dairy cows, but he also acknowledged that he's going to be having heifers and dry cows, so the numbers may vary based on those as one animal unit. The site plan does note two large buildings, a freestall barn and a calf barn, a dry cow barn, and a milking parlor that's attached to the freestall barn. To the west would be located a lagoon. The petitioner also did note that there will be feed containment to the north of this, which would be a kind of a pile, a dome pile, and that there will be a manure separation room that is attached as a lean-to to one of these buildings. For a CAFO to be allowed in the county, there are several applicable requirements that must be met before the approval process. First, the operator shall maintain inspection records and maintenance records of the property and manure facilities, and that is part of the manure management plan. Copies shall be filed with the county annually. He must have a manure management plan and to show that he has enough acreage to apply the manure in a safe manner. The site must not be in a watershed protection overlay district, which it is not, and that the site must also include provisions for rendering surfaces. Finally, it is required that a registered engineer approve the lagoon and facilities before being and while being built. The manure management plan is looked to have separated dried solids that is going to be used for bedding pack in the stalls. The liquids will be stored in the lagoon. The liquid manure will be knifed into nearby farmland so it would be incorporated when it is applied in the spring and the fall. The management plan does indicate the applicant has enough cropland available for the nutrients. The effect and enjoyment of property and surrounding areas already permitted. The primary use of the area around this is ag land with some intermittent single-family dwellings. For the requirements for the Minnehaha County, it requires a signed waiver of anybody living within a defined setback based on animal units, which are these lines. This light blue line is the dwelling unit slash business line that has to be required waivers. The one dwelling unit, let's see if I can show you on this, is located right at about this line, and we have not received a waiver from that property owner. And it is unlikely that we will. Nearby, there are also other single-family dwellings, a dog training facility, and a lake located upstream from the property, all which would be outside of this buffer area and minimally affected by the operation. The effect should have little effect on development other than possible single-family development, but the comprehensive plan does warn against residential development inhibiting productivity in agricultural parts of the county. Both the Hartford and Humboldt townships were notified of this operation before the Planning Commission meeting, and neither of them had any concerns about the operation. The primary concerns for that the measures to be controlled for offensive nuisances would be the odor concerns, traffic concerns, and management plan of dust. Primary effect to control these concerns is a shelter belt that is not on the site plan, but has indicated that he is willing to plant a shelter belt as staff has recommended and required. But it is also recognized that in no case that the odor can be completely eliminated. In the Planning Commission meeting on last month, the Planning Commission did approve the operation with a 4-0 vote with the conditions. They did add 2 conditions to the permit from the staff recommended. The conditions added was a test well site must be dug downstream from the lagoon. 4 water quality tests shall be completed within the first year of operation and samples taken as needed. After that, if the water quality tests fail to meet minimum standards, then testing shall take place 4 times a year until the problem is corrected. And then Condition 14, a general water pollution control permit for concentrated animal feeding operation shall be approved from the DENR, and a copy shall be filed with Minnehaha County Planning Department, and that is the state permit. These are just some general pictures of the site. There's kind of a hill there that is the approximate location of the buildings, the barns, and you can see the farmstead in the background, closer to the farmstead. This is looking to the west towards the lake. On the left side of the picture, you can see a little building there, and that would be the Sioux Valley Retrievers Club. This is also looking west, right at the hill. This is looking at the road, looking south towards the existing farmstead, and then this is looking straight east to the next quarter, which is also not very heavily populated. Staff was informed that it was requested that a map be made of those who oppose those who signed the appeal letter. And this would be the map of all the residences and the setback buffer areas. This is based on the last name of the residences because they did not give an address on the appeal letter. So if there's any errors, it can be corrected as people come up, but this is what we can find. So,
could you speak up a little bit?
These are the residents of the people who signed the letter, the appeal letter, but we are unsure if this is fully correct because this is based on the land ownership last name because they did not provide addresses on the letter. So,
can you explain once again now the black line, the black circle?
This one?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the outside, that black circle is the municipality line, which grows incrementally from as you add more animal units, and that is for the distance setback from the municipality, and there's no cities in
no
that.
Problem there. Okay, then the dark blue line.
The dark blue line is a setback from public parks.
Okay.
And that is not a problem either.
Okay.
And then the light blue line is a setback from dwelling units and businesses, churches, and that sort of thing. And as you can see in this map, the house point is just off the blue line, and it is really close. And I did not do it quite like this when I said that the waiver was required. And I looked at the map and I looked at the GIS, and it looked very close, so I said that it needed to be required for the waiver. So it is very close to this boundary line. So it is that initial buffer line is 1,980 feet from the site.
That's the white line?
So, yep, that's the white line.
And so the house is outside the buffer line?
It's really close. It might be. It might not be. That's why it's in that kind of gray area of. I can show you on mini-map if that's all right. I did bring up mini-map, and it gets really close to whether or not this house is truly in that buffer area or not.
Okay.
But I was deciding to play it safe. So the house is right. The house is right here. The hand is at, and the farm is right, or the proposed CAFO is right here. If you measure it, it is right at about 2,000 feet. So it's very difficult to tell.
Questions for Kevin? Commissioner Barth.
Going back to your other map, where are the other residents in the area that did not sign the petition? Are there any other homes in the area that that are not identified there?
Yes. I wish I. It's a good question. I don't have the map for you right now.
I was just wondering.
If you see a smaller parcel on there, it's likely that the smaller parcel has a house.
So there's one like on the east edge of the circle there, right there. It's likely to be a residence.
Yep.
In the municipality circle. Okay.
Yep.
So you didn't pull up a GIS to determine
the distance?
I don't think we can get into it from here. I don't understand this.
No, the map was. So when the GIS made this boundary on the 10-acre described parcel, it was originally just. I'm going to go back to the computer. This was the map that was made. So I looked at this map, and then I looked at the mini map, and decided that was right at the border of that line.
Commissioner Kelly.
What I thought Jeff was asking, is there any other homes within the light blue or the dark blue circle?
No.
Period.
And
so that home in the south is the closest one to this operation. Thank you.
That is the only one within that area.
Any other questions?
I have one question. So the petitioner was informed that a waiver was required?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for staff? Okay, Kevin, we'll hear from the petitioner.
I'm Kyle Obers of 26193 460th Avenue, Hartford, South Dakota. And I'm applying for this 900.
Could you point that microphone straight at your mouth there? It's
and I'm applying for this 999 cow Capco. We're a fourth-generation family farming on this operation, and every generation prior to me has been involved in milking. My father, most recently in 2001, was milking approximately 120, 150 cows on this place. When we started this project out, we made the decision to start milking again. It was a very low-budget facility. You know, we weren't spending much. It was going to be much like the old operation. It's transformed into a state-of-the-art, multi-million-dollar facility. But it's still a family operation. We have no investors. We're making all this, you know, this is a family farm still. This operation is going to be robotic, which means there's going to be less traffic. I'm not going to have a bunch. I'll have a few employees still, but I'm not going to have the number of employees a typical 500 cow operation will have. So I'll have less traffic coming out in the country. we're going to have one milk truck a day. You know, we had one every other day before. So there's going to be minimal traffic coming in and out of the dairy. There'll be a feed truck once a week, but overall, the robots will minimize traffic out in our neighborhood. The robots will also lessen peak water requirements. We've already been approved by Rural Water. The only condition is they might require a tank just to make sure that we don't ever go over the peak. But it looks like that shouldn't be an issue, but nonetheless, there'll probably be tanks installed just in case. This facility is going to have a manure separator system. We're going to be separating solids from liquids. This helps prevent crusting on the lagoons, which when the crust breaks open, it emits, you know, that's when you build up your manure. You know, the gases come out then all at once. So it's going to reduce that, preventing odors. We're going to be using our solids then from the separator system as bedding. So once again, there'll be less trucks coming out hauling in sand because you know, cow pulls out 50 pounds of sand out of the free stalls a day on average. So there's quite a bit of sand coming into these dairies. We'll be eliminating that. We'll also, coming with fly control, the separator system helps with that, and the fact that our lagoon is encrusted over, it doesn't give the flies a place to rest, nest anywhere on the surface of it because it's water. The interior of the barn is going to have a scraper system that will be scraping the barns once every hour of the day, which is going to help with air quality in the barn. We're going to have a tunnel ventilated system, so we'll be emitting, you know, there'll be air moving through all the time. It's a hybrid tunnel ventilate building, so 95% of the time there'll be a fan going. So it's not like a typical tunnel ventilate where there are periods where the fans quit, gases build up, and it kicks on. The only time when it will be shutting off is usually 20 below. So even if there is a small time when we have a little higher concentration of gas, it's in the middle of winter when nobody's outside, all the windows are closed. And it'll be minimal at most. Once again, this tunnel ventilation barn during the summer maintains an 8-mile-an-hour wind speed in the buildings. Flies do not stay in these barns. They, you know, you go into a dairy, a lot of times cows are sitting on backs of these cows. They're not in these barns. We've been in tunnel ventilate barns. Look at the ceiling. I mean, the barn's 5 years old. There's no fly specks because, I mean, it's just not an environment that flies care to be in. So fly control, I mean, we'll be doing some spraying, but for the most part, a lot of it's being controlled just in our barn systems. We'll be having engineers, engineering lagoons, everything else. We've been working with Eisenbrunn. We've already done some tests where the lagoon site is. We went 18 foot deep and it's been solid clay all the way. We left it open for, I believe, about 3 weeks. There wasn't any water in there. So before we've even done any dirt work, there's already basically no permeability. We filled it with water, left it for 36 hours. There was no drop in water. So we already have a good clay base to build our lagoon system in. On our farm already, we're doing grid mapping for fertility. So, you know, we're going to put manure where it needs to be, not just going out and applying it. I work with Central Crop Consulting. They do a lot of manure management plans for in state of South Dakota. They do a lot with that already. We have 10-year history with them. I'm enrolled in the CSP conservation programs at the NRCS. And since the last meeting, we have been added into the watershed for Skunk Creek. It's happened in the last 20 days, which means we're now qualified for additional funding to close down the CAFO that my father is running. So that CAFO to the south will be closed now, and he is going to build a new one a mile east. He's already submitted plans with planning and zoning for that. So an issue last time was the CAFO still being there, existing, you know, my father's, not mine. That's going to be closed down now and moved out. We own a large land base, manure-wise, in this area. We have, well, what we rent, we've rented most of it for quite a few decades now. I got signed agreements from 5 neighbors for an additional 3,000 acres minimal that I can apply manure on if, for some reason, I don't have enough acres. That was something that came up last time. I got another 3,000 acres approved since then. I got the agreements right here. In regards to our neighbors, there are, in the municipality ring, there is 7 houses. Inside the blue ring, there are none. I used the map he just pulled up, and I couldn't get a hold of the Wi-Fi, so I just took a picture of it yesterday. To the north edge of our trees is 1,920 feet from the house. The lagoon is going to be a minimal of another 240 feet above that. So that puts us at that 2,100 to 2,200 feet minimal from our neighbor's dwelling, which is where we have to be away. But nonetheless, we are doing, you know, we're doing a lot of things that technically could get this setback reduced. I mean, we have our existing grove of trees, plus, you know, a new grove of trees planted in the last 15 years that's 70 foot tall on the north side of our grove. Plus, there's the neighbor's grove of trees all between. We're doing the manure separation. You know, we're doing what we can to minimize the effect. Plus, we got these groves of trees, and they're technically outside of the setbacks. Majority of the traffic from this farm will be traveled on the mile in front of us and the mile east. There are no residents on these 2 miles besides ours. You know, that's the only residents on those 2 miles, so we won't be affecting, you know, people with the traffic between our CAFO or even my father's CAFO. No one lives on those roads. An issue is land values. Land values are only going to be bolstered by this dairy. The last 3 parcels sell in this neighborhood. 2 of them are bought by us. The third one, my uncle was the second last bidder. Last 3 sales also, as far as acreages were concerned, the acreages couldn't get bought off of them. The farmers do want acreages out here. In fact, the only thing that's going to hurt land values is building acreages on your property in this neighborhood. So land values are not going to be affected by this dairy. We're going to have regular rendering pickup. We're injecting our manure, and I guess we've always tried to be good neighbors. Proved everybody's who's asked to tile. You know, I've done snow removal, and we've worked on plumbing and electrical in that house that's right next to us. You know, we've always tried to be good neighbors. Our current facility, I know, isn't tip-top. It's a livestock operation. Most of our neighbors are acreage owners. They don't have cattle and everything else. Drive around the livestock operations in the country. I mean, it's kind of the same story a lot of times. We do have quite a few trees down right now because we had to remove all the trees from the road right away last summer. These trees are 100 years old. You just can't throw a match in them and burn them. You know, so yes, they are there, and they need to be cleaned up, and they will be cleaned up. Another big issue is, as you can see on the maps, we have a creek running on the south side of our property. That's the whole point in this facilities, is to get out of the creek bottom. I can go milking in our current facilities, but it doesn't, you know, we're on that creek, we're in the manure. The NRCS is offering me money to move the operations out. We want to get out and improve the environment. This creek is 6 miles long. We control over half the property, you know, or almost, between me and my uncles, control almost half the property on there. Both my grandparents grew up on this creek. I mean, it is the center of our farm, you know. There's only 2 CRP properties on the ground. Both of them are our ground. You know, we've been enrolled in NRCS programs trying to clean up the creek, and that's our goal moving out of there, because I'm the one down there fighting the mud and her, and it's, you know, it's not fun. So in closing, I guess I'm just asking the neighbors, the townships, this commission to allow me to build this cow-friendly, management-friendly, neighborhood-friendly, environmentally friendly facility. I'm appealing to get the state approval removed because I'm, you know, it's going to take considerably, you know, 3-4 more months to get this going. Pushes me into the winter on construction. We do most of the construction ourselves, so it just pushes everything back. It's financially and time-wise, I would much rather invest in things that improve this facility than just in going through, you know, because the conditions the NRCS, the county, and the state have are all the same. So I'm going to have the NRCS making sure I'm doing things right, and the county, you know, and they're paying me to do it right, and the county watching over. I don't see a need to have all 3 involved, because at 25 years old, I got a lot of things going on right now, and I'd like to keep moving forward. So, and, you know, ultimately, we're going to milk cows, whether it's in our existing facilities or in these new ones. So, thank you.
I have one question. Did you say you appealed this decision and it was because you didn't want the state requirement? Was that the number?
No, I just added an appeal on the. They had the 2 conditions for the monitoring well.
Yeah.
And then to get the state permit, I appealed the state permit one.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay.
Just keep this all moving forward.
Commissioner Berg.
Mr. Albers, so the existing dairy operation, are they housed in a barn? Are they enclosed? Or are
we are not milking cows at this time.
Okay.
Those are feeder cattle.
Okay, and are they out and about, or are they in a barn?
They're in open lots. Some are in barns, some are in open lots. Okay. There's cows to the west of the place, dry lot, you know, just north of the creek.
And if I may.
And then we're going to finish, after you're done with the question, we're going to finish.
And so your planned operation, though, they'll be all enclosed?
The planned operation is going to be all enclosed.
Thank you.
Both CAFOs will be all enclosed.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next person who is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor of this CAFO? That wants to speak in favor of it? Can you just give your name and your address, please?
I'm Andy Carson. I work with Central. I'm the consultant that helps Kyle and Brian on their farm. I'm just going to say that we're going to do our best to make sure that we are managing the manure correctly. It's in our best interest. I mean, it's our best interest to apply it correctly and follow all the regulations. So it's better for us. It's more money we can save from fertilizer. So I've been doing it for 10 years and working with DNR permitted barns and non-permitted barns, and we run them all the same. So,
all right.
I was going to say that. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor of this? And we'll go to the opponents.
Good morning. My name is Jay Leibel. I'm an attorney in Madison, South Dakota. And my presentation is on behalf of adjacent landowners as well as the townships that are involved. This is on the border basically of Humboldt and the Hartford as well as Wellington townships. Dennis Kapperman is one of the landowners that's affected, and he will assist me with a couple of pictures and maps that we want to show you. First of all, we want to make it clear we aren't against the dairy. We think the dairy is a good idea. None of the neighbors, the township, have no objection to the dairy. However, they're very concerned about the process that has brought this before you today, and we have concerns. For example, reference has been made to the adjacent unit that will be abandoned. This is it. Also, today is the first time we've heard anything about a haul road. This is the particular road that is going to be used in that particular matter. The township's concerns are that what they wanted, and it was brought up at the last meeting, to identify the haul roads so we can enter into an agreement with the dairy as to what those roads are and what are going to be the responsibilities for the respective parties for the maintenance of that road. As the applicant has indicated, there will be a milk truck coming in every day. That means 24/7. That road has to be open, 365, regardless of the weather. Many times, when you have hard rains, those trucks do a lot of damage to the road. The local farmers, they know that. They stay off the roads, but dairies do not have that ability to pick and choose because of the need to get the milk to and from market every day. They're going to be on that road. That means it's going to be an additional burden on the townships for attempting to maintain that road. And so what we're asking is that a condition of any permit be that there be a haul road agreement with the township. This is another picture of the road that's involved in it. Just the reason for this one is to show the drainage that they've talked about. That's the railing that's now on the bridge or culvert. That's the type of road that we're dealing with. We're talking about an old structure that we're very concerned about what this heavy traffic will do, or not heavy in numbers, but in weight, is going to do to this particular structure, and the access it is going to give to everyone. This is just another picture of that particular drainage. Lastly, this is the picture of the existing facility, which we now understand as of today may be abandoned for use. But you'll notice its proximity to the water. You'll notice that the trees that are in the background, that is the shelter belt that would be on the south side of the new facility. The maps, the topographical maps, show that that particular section drops over 50 feet from the north side of the section to the south side of the section. I don't know if it'll show up, but here's a picture off the U.S. geographical map showing the elevations. On the far, be on my right side, you'll notice that there are three portions that I highlighted. Those are the two intersections that are in the northeast and the southeast corner of that particular section, section 36. And you can see the mark in the middle, which is the elevation at the quarter line or the half-mile mark. There's approximately a 25-foot drop in each one of those increments, and everything basically from the west and the north will come through this particular area. So they're very concerned about the circumstances and how this facility is built and constructed. One of our concerns is right now, if you take a look at the petition that was submitted to your Planning Commission, the applicant was Kyle. The land is owned by his parents, and the nutrition plan mentions the Brothers Dairy. Our question is, who owns it? Who's going to be responsible for it? Right now in the application that's been submitted to the county, there are three different entities that appear to be involved. We believe that the owner of that particular facility should be the one that should be making that application, and that's who it should be granted to. Right now, that's unclear. In addition, there are numerous requirements of your ordinance as to that are mandatory, using the word shall. Reference was made to those. Promises were made to that effect, I think, today in the presentation by Kyle. But we're requesting that the ordinance be followed, that those requirements be met before the permit be issued. Specifically, the section and the report indicates that there was no landscape plan. That's required by section 1210 C2A. They've made reference to it that they're going to plant trees, but there's no plan. Also, there's a grading plan required under that particular one. 2B requires a grading plan. There is no grading plan. What you have here, as Kyle acknowledged, is a multi-million-dollar facility. And what do we have for a plan that's going to be presented? You have one handwritten document. You got it, or I have it. Maybe I have it. There it is. Yeah, that's the one. You have a multi-million-dollar operation, and you have a handwritten document. It shows a lagoon. Do we know how big that lagoon is? Do we know how deep it is? Do you know that it'll meet the requirements of the number of livestock units that they're going to have in there? Also, you'll notice over on the far right, it mentions the road. This is the road that was previously referenced. It has a 26-foot driveway. Is that going to be sufficient to bring in the semis? Is it going to be big enough for the milk truck in bad weather to make that turn? There's a lot of questions about that particular map. He's mentioned it's going to be a state-of-the-art facility. We believe that. But if that's the case, why can't you see it? Why can't he meet the requirements of your ordinance? Present that information. Over the years, I've participated in a number of hearings like this, whether it be a dairy, hog confinement unit, or whatever. All of them, when they made the presentation, and this is the only exception, have brought in those engineering documents that have already been drafted by the engineering company to meet the requirements not only of the ordinance, but of state requirements. The literature obviously must be available. I think Kyle did an excellent job of explaining the intent, their intentions as to how that operation is going to run. And I wish him well. We wish him well. We want that dairy to succeed. But right now there seems to be a lot of questions in regards to that. It's easy to make that presentation orally, but it should be presented to you in writing because that's the requirements of your ordinance. Also, the nutrient plan. It appears to be under that's a self-produced document. It appears to be, at least in my reading, that under your ordinance, at least 3 of the elements, A, D, and F, are missing out of that particular problem, or out of that particular management program. Also, your ordinance requires written documents for the distribution of the manure. He's indicated that he does have that because it's on family ground, and that there are others. He's referenced that he may have those, but those should have been filed or should be filed now with you prior to the issuance of any permit. Again, we aren't saying that the dairy isn't there. Right now, the house that's been an issue, I understand that's his folks'. We don't have any problems with that. To us, the setback distance as far as that house is a non-issue. We don't see that as an issue. What we see are the long-range issues, ramifications of this particular, project. We think it has viability. We think it can fit in this particular area. But there are a lot of concerns that they have, the neighbors, the townships have, as to the way this is going to be run. We're asking you to deny the petition now. Let that, have them file those documents. Let the staff review it again. Let's determine who the ownership is. Let's determine who's going to be operating it. Let's see the documents that say not only we dug a hole, but let's see the borings to say that where that lagoon is going to be is suitable. Obviously, from the drop of the land, this was glacial land. We know that from spot to spot it can change. You may have beautiful clay 15, 20, 30 feet deep, but right next to it you can have sand or rock or whatever. And until there's that documentation, it's difficult for anyone, including myself, to stand here and say that this is a safe facility. We believe it can be made a safe facility, environmentally sound. But right now, you don't have the documentation to establish that, nor have the requirements of your own ordinance been met. Therefore, we're respectfully requesting that you do not approve this particular project at that time. Upon proper documentation to you, then we suspect that it will be approved. And I was saying, we aren't against it. But right now, there's just too many questions to be asked and answered prior to the issuance of the permit. We'll ask or answer any questions that you may have.
We're going to finish with, is there anyone else that wants to speak against it?
Commissioner Heiberger?
Yes.
Could I just get clarification about who you're here representing today?
I am representing the adjacent landowners that are around there that signed the petition.
Everyone who signed the petition?
Yes. In addition, there are a couple other neighbors that are here today that were out of the area, did not sign the petition. Also, there are representatives from the township here, Humboldt Township, and so forth, that are asking me to speak on their behalf, saying they would like to have, as a condition, a road haul agreement. This is the first time we've heard as to how they propose to get the vehicles in and out. And we wish that issue can be addressed. If and when the permit is issued, we're going to be asking you make that as one of the conditions, that there be a haul road agreement with the affected townships.
I'm going to, if there's no more opponents, I'll give the proponent an opportunity to give a comment.
Can I ask one more question of his representation?
Yeah, and then we'll...
Have you been contracted by the townships, or are you just speaking for a couple of people in the township? I don't understand.
I am representing the township. One of my functions, I'm the attorney for the State Association of Towns and Townships. In that role, I represent individual townships on various issues. I am speaking on behalf of the Township Board of Supervisors.
Good.
If there's no more opponents, then I would let Kyle an opportunity, if you have anything you want to rebuttal that he said before we go to questions.
Am I able to speak? I think there's another.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I thought you were part of that. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I thought you were raising your hand because you were going to put pictures up.
Thank you for hearing me. I guess I'm one of those that like to have somebody speak for me, but I can't keep my mouth shut, so I got to speak myself too. But I'm Dennis Kapperman. I'm a landowner adjacent to the east and downstream of the proposed dairy.
Dennis, could you give your address too?
My concern.
Your address for the record, please.
My address is 45994 263rd Street, Hartford, which is 1 mile south is where I currently live. But I own the property, like I said, I own that half section directly to the east of the proposed dairy. Just to, Kyle has done a good job presenting his case, but a little concerned on the procedures and how he's going about this. He's talking about a state-of-the-art facility, and yet in the same regard, he says he's going to do a majority of this himself. Well, there's a little hesitation there. How can you put up a state-of-the-art facility when you're not involved in that type of process on a daily basis? The other thing, of course, is the downstream, the watershed on this property. It is that stream that runs to the south of that proposed dairy is the overflow for the Grass Lake water lake there. So this spring, of course, the pictures we have there show a minor amount of water coming through there, but generally on a normal snow melt spring, the water is considerably deeper and larger amount of volume coming through there. So we're concerned about possible runoff from the dairy and the existing facilities, creating havoc in that. And last but not least, the play on the community around the area. Yes, at the current location, there is only one house within close proximity of that dairy, but the haul roads that they will be taking to and from that facility, here's your Hartford exit off the Interstate I-90. You have one road that heads west a half mile, and this is the proposed haul road that I'm assuming they're going to go with, is 1.5 miles south and then 3 miles to the west. There are a fair amount of occupants along both sides of this road. This, of course, just shows the occupants in Hartford Township. There is approximately 3, if not 4, building sites in this vicinity in the Wall Lake Township that also goes along that road. So there is a fair amount of residents along that first mile of road, both to the north and to the south. So there is some concern about the traffic and the conditions of the road. That's what I just wanted to add to this, is that it's involving, you know, more people than just myself and Kyle and the other 2 existing landowners here. Those people travel the roads. They want to make sure that that road is kept in proper maintenance so that they too can commute to and from their workplace, because they elected to live out there. They also expect that the roads are open and maintainable for their commute. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mr.
Cindy.
Captain. Kyle, if you have some additional comments.
Yeah. In regards to all those houses up there, there'll be 1 truck going past that place. There's also 2 daycares. Everybody has garbage service, construction company, guy who has A1 plumbing. I'm going to have a very small fraction of the road traffic, not to mention all the farmers out there. So I will have 1 truck going by that place, but you drive down that road now, I mean, it's all rumble strips, and that's not my traffic. So, you know, I will have traffic going by that place, though, you know, 1 truck a day. In regards to having to have trucks in every day, the truck's going to come every day. I'm going to have about 2.5 days worth of capacity. So if they don't need, you know, they can't get in, they're not going to have to force their way through. That bridge there is on the plans to be replaced prior to this dairy. It's probably close to 100 years old, and it's already on the agenda to get fixed at some point. And it needs to be fixed. In regards to who's going to own the land, we've already stated, I didn't get brought up in this meeting, but I will be purchasing the property there. We haven't done it yet because if I don't build a dairy, there's not a lot of reason for me to own 5 acres in the middle of my father's property. So we're going to do that, you know, when it happens. We have to have the engineers, we have to meet you guys' specs. We don't have it all drawn up now, but once again, I'm investing a lot of money in this, but if it's not going to happen, I'm 25 years old. I'm not going to spend $20,000 on engineers, on, you know, all this stuff if I'm not approved to do it. I mean, I'm 20 years old. I don't have that kind of, you know, cash just to spend if I'm not going to have an investment that's going to return itself. As far as us not being qualified to build these facilities, we've built buildings for SDSU. We've built salt sheds for the state of South Dakota. My dad has been in the construction industry for years on the side with farming. He's worked for Morton Buildings. We've built buildings for Windy Hill Stables, North Town. We've been involved in the construction industry. We have 2 high lifts, access to 2 backhoes, multiple excavators. We have, on the place now, we have 2 belly dumps. I mean, we have construction equipment. It's not like this is just, oh, we're just going to build a building. We're more than qualified to build this building, and there will be a general contractor on the plans. So, yes, I don't have a 3D layout of my entire facilities, but, you know, the 3D layout at the end of the day doesn't make the facilities, you know, it'd be nice for everybody to see visually, but it's not something that I can, you know, just afford to dish up the money out of my pocket if this isn't going to move forward anyways. So if you have any more questions.
Okay. Commissioner Kelly.
Kyle, I believe the Nussbaums, is that, Jeff, am I right on the name there, have a dairy operation over by Garrettson, and then...
Yep.
And, okay, and that's an automated, that's a robotic. Is that similar to what you're going to do?
Yeah, this is going to be, it's going to have the feed pushers, scrapers, and automatic milking, just like Nussbaums. Okay. It's just going to be I think Nussbaum's is 120 head. This is 480. So it's a larger, but it's the same exact principle.
And the construction you're talking about doing yourself is the building, not the robotic equipment, which is the big part of it.
No, the robotic equipment is, we'll hire the electrical done for the hybrid tunnel ventilate system, and the robots are all, they come from Sweden, and then they're all installed by, they're installed by professionals. I'm just building the facilities itself and doing the concrete work.
Thank you, that's what I'm...
Additional questions? I'm putting it back to the commission for questioning.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barth.
Carl, have you been in touch with the township folks? And maybe Kevin, you might know, did we get any feedback from the townships before this?
Prior to the Planning Commission meeting, we did not receive any contact from the townships. So at the Planning Commission meeting, they showed up, and it was mentioned that by one of the township supervisors that it's going to be very similar to any other farm operation is the way he described it, because even though there's going to be the daily load, it's still going to be seasonal feed, it's going to be seasonal manure spreading, and so he didn't think there was a big deal with the operation at that planning commission.
So did they express opposition at that point?
No, they did not express any opposition. They were just there stating that they didn't have opposition, I guess.
Thank you.
Or at least the Hartford and the two that I contacted Hartford and Humboldt, and no opposition was made. So
Humboldt wasn't for, wasn't against it, and Hartford had no opposition.
Okay. Additional questions? I know Mr. Leibel has something to say, but Commissioner Bender.
Well, I don't know if you want to allow him to speak on the issue of the roads, but I have a question. I have a question about this whole waiver from the property owners from the south.
Yeah.
Do you have a waiver?
I dropped the waiver off to them, and they didn't sign it.
Okay.
Like I said, they are technically outside of the 1980s, so the waiver's not required. And the waiver can be waived if I'm doing things to prevent affecting their, way of life.
So your position is, one, the waiver's not required, and two, if it is required, that you're meeting the second part of the ordinance by presenting new technology, management practices, topography features, soil conditions, and other features which substantiate a reduction.
Yep. And I don't know if the state's attorney wanted me to provide this. I don't know if I can. But that's just a piece of paper saying what I'm doing to reduce the waiver.
Where was this list from?
Just as they wanted me to have a written list of what I'm proposing to do to improve it. Not just, he watched the video recordings and we didn't have a written list.
Oh, okay.
He just wanted a written list.
Okay. Okay. Additional questions? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have one more question, and this maybe is a question for Kevin. Kevin, can you clarify, is the measuring period for where the waiver is required, is it measured from the lagoon? Is it measured from the property line of the CAFO?
So, for the measurement of the offset does not specifically state the property line, or it just says that from the, from the concentrated animal feeding operation. So we classified this as, we put this 10-acre parcel that he described in the location and used that 10-acre parcel as the location. We have seen Other operations have the engineer have the circles around the building, the closest edges of buildings, and have used that in the most recent case, for example. But it just says from the concentrated animal or operation.
So when you said earlier that it was a close call, you were measuring it from the property line to the house?
Yes, yes, I was. And I was, when I said it was a close call, and I originally looked at it, I looked at the GIS map, which was its own thing, and then I looked at the I looked at this GIS map, which was its own just white copy, and you can't see the houses. And then I looked at the imagery map, and it looked close. It looked too close for me to call, and it did not actually have the measurements there. So that's how I judged it, that he needed the waiver.
Any more questions for Kyle or Kevin? I believe Mr. Leibel has a comment.
I assume it was just a misstatement. But Kyle indicated that he hadn't bought the 5 acres from his parents yet. That's indicative of what we're trying to say. The maps show that it's approximately 10 acres. He's making representations as to the waiver that would allow, because of scientific development and the like. It's okay to say that. We believe his intentions are right. But there's no documentation. Once you issue that permit, he starts forward with the project, it's going to be almost impossible or very difficult for the commission or anybody to back off that project if it isn't done the way that it's been orally presented to you. What we're saying is we think that they can meet the requirements. We think that they can do that and the dairy can be built there. But we're asking that you cross the T's, dot the I's before you issue the permit. Just don't rely on oral representations. For example, one of the questions that you just asked was on the township's position. A township supervisor did appear, say that he didn't feel the township had any concerns or objections. It's my understanding he's related to Kyle. He spoke without having a consensus or a decision from the township board. He was speaking as an individual in his official capacity, but unofficially he was speaking on behalf of the board. A township board is just like your board. You're entitled to your own opinions. But basically your only authority is a board member. I am telling you, there are township officers here that are saying that that was not the official position of their township. Their official position is that they would like to see a haul road agreement. They believe it can be done. They have no objections, as indicated, to the dairy. But they would like to see that as one of the conditions, that there be a haul road agreement.
A point of order. Normally our discussion is that the petitioner has the last word. Now we're getting another lecture. And, I don't think it's in order, but I don't know that much about law.
The last comment I would make is take a look at the map. His map has 9.88 acres. If you take out the building site and the lagoon site, that takes approximately 2.2 acres. So we're down to 7.66 acres. In that, he's got to have room for parking, food storage, access, manure, everything else. Is the site, based on that map, meeting all of the requirements they're going to need, including, a buffer as to the trees?
Kyle, you do get the last word. So I was kind of taking a question for Mr. Leibel, and I got a little more than a question, so you get the last word.
I guess in regard to the townships, I believe there was a signature from a township board member on the appeal as well, not approved by the township. The only township that objected was represented by Denny, who's obviously got a conflict of interest in this. And yeah, in regards to the property, I mean, it's plenty large enough for our operation. We don't need a lot of parking because I'm not going to have 25 employees around. So.
Okay, thank you. Now, Commission, if you have any questions for anyone, otherwise discussion.
Madam Chair, I guess I have a question for staff. Would that DNR permit take this many months, or, you know, I mean...
Kyle, you have time. Kevin, excuse me.
Would it take 3 months? I'm not sure exactly. I guess I don't. It wouldn't be unreasonable, but I don't know for any specific amount of time.
Okay.
Additional questions, comments?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barth.
I guess, you know, in general, I'm supportive of this type of activity. At the same time, I can understand the concerns about dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I'm personally building a new house, and I haven't picked out all the light fixtures yet, you know, but we're already starting. I mean, there are things that cannot really be written down exactly in advance. At the same time, I also think that some of these issues could be taken a step further before we approve it, and I'm wondering if maybe if we were to defer action for a week or so, if a couple of these things might be addressable by the applicant.
Other comments? Commissioner Barth has suggested a deferral.
Well, I don't know what a week is going to do. If they want professional engineering drawings and everything else, that's going to take some time, and it's going to take a lot of cost. And the only reason I happened to be at the news bounds was, it was just like a year ago. This has nothing to do with this particular one. I got in trouble for that last time. But the point is that the technical part of it is the computer part, is the whole robotic operation. And building a building, I don't think it takes a licensed carpenter or contractor to build a building if these guys are capable of doing it themselves, especially if his father has experience in the construction business. The other question I have is, the township's concerned about roads. Well, they're concerned they're going to have to spend some money on the roads, but I thought that was their function. And I mean, that's why these people pay township taxes, and they expect to have decent roads, and that is that's a primary responsibility, I think, of the township. This is a family deal. Yeah, there might be various little entities within the family, but basically he's testified, and I have no reason to believe otherwise, that this is a family operation. So if dad owns this and son owns this, to me that's not a real big deal. But I hope that we would make a decision today on this and let them move forth if we decide that way.
Commissioner Bennett, do you have a comment?
Well, yeah, I'm an I-dotter and T-crosser by profession, and so, I mean, it is, and this is my first time through this process, so it was surprising to me that there wasn't more detail provided. And I am hung up on this whole waiver issue, and I don't, I think if we did have an opportunity to defer it, we could have something more substantial provided that helps me to understand that if we aren't going to get a waiver, specifically how we meet the second part of that ordinance, I think that's doable in a week. I think progress being made on a Hall Road agreement could be done in a week or two to show some work towards trying to cooperate in. I mean, it seems to me like that's something that could be handled in a week or two. I'm not sure that I'm looking at professional drawn specs, but it does appear to me like that there's some technical requirements for meeting the requirements for the ordinance that haven't been met today that could be met in a reasonable period of time.
Additional comments? I'm concerned about the bridge, and I just would like to know what the highway department's, that's something that I would add to that, is I want to know when that bridge is going to be replaced and what the load limit is on that bridge right now, and what the route is. I do side with Commissioner Kelly as far as it is the township's responsibility to maintain roads, but it would be also interesting to know what that road can withstand for weight, and how much a milk hauler is going to haul. But you have tractors going down that with large equipment, and they may be putting the same amount of weight on that road. I don't know, but those are questions I would have about the road issue. Kevin, I also am wondering do we require other people building buildings to have engineers' reports? And, what are some of the things, in the past?
For a building such as this, where it is a CAFO, we require for sure the engineer for the lagoon. We also have required in the past engineered drawings for building for a CAFO like this in this size. So engineered drawings would be something that, would be helpful. But who builds it, they can build it. That is not a requirement to who builds it. That has to be.
So would the engineer's drawing be part of those conditions on those 14 conditions, or that they couldn't go forward until they had them, or would that be something you had to have before they could even come and ask for a conditional use permit?
It would be something that is required by it being the CAFO.
You got Scott coming up. Scott's coming up.
There would need to be the engineered plans for the lagoon system. That's part of the conditional use permit for the CAFO. Once we get to the building, if the size of the building triggers when they apply for the building permit, that's when we would require engineer plans for the building.
So that isn't part of that.
It's sort of a two-part process there. And if it is the desire of the commission to continue this, I'd sort of like it continued for 2 weeks, because next Monday's a holiday, and that's not really going to give us a lot of time to address anything.
Right.
Commissioner Heiberger?
Yes.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? But we have not received any engineered drawings for the lagoon. Is that correct?
No, we have not.
But those engineered drawings would be required before you could move forward with building the lagoon. So
that is correct.
You don't have to have it for the original proposed CAFO conditional use permit. That is not required. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barth.
I've often commented about how technologies change, and technologies of agriculture have changed over time. And, looking at the existing operation there, it's clear to me that this new project would really do wonders for the water in the area. When people regularly complain about CAFOs, and what it does to the water, the idea of an enclosed facility with an engineered waste disposal system is clearly better than having cattle standing in open fields or in the Big Sioux River, scenic as that might be. So, I think just from the point of view of protecting our water, that this will be an improvement for that area. And if I may, I'd like to suggest we do, as our planning director suggests, take a 2-week deferral. I'll make that motion and ask for a second.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second for a 2-week deferral. Yes, Ben, you did. Sorry. Do you have any specific things you want in this deferral?
I would like to hear more about the townships, about the bridge. Maybe our own highway department could improve that. The driveway, is that big enough for these vehicles? I think that the engineered design doesn't have to come to me at this point, but I think that I am interested about the DENR part still at this point, and would be interested to see how long it would take to do this. I would think that our state being agriculturally based, that somebody in Pierre could kick something and get things moving on that.
I have a motion and a second to defer for 2 weeks to get some more documents in line. Any other questions or comments or things that you want to see in 2 weeks? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We are deferring for 2 weeks for some extra work for Kyle. Okay. We will move on to item number 11, to authorize the chairman to sign a contract between Minnehaha County and Banner Associates in the amount of $66,100 for bridge re-inspection program. DJ Boothie. Good morning, DJ.
Good morning, Commissioners.
What do you know about that bridge?
What's that?
What do you know about that bridge?
You know what? We will talk about that bridge later. Not now. Not now. We got things to do.
I can probably talk for 20 minutes.
No, well, you got 30 seconds.
Okay. What we're doing here is you guys are all familiar with our annual bridge inspection program, our process that we go through, and how that typically works is the majority of our structures are inspected every other year. It happens to be even numbered years. That's when we inspect the majority of our structures. And then the odd number years, like 2015, we have a much smaller quantity of structures that are inspected. The ones that are on the 12-month inspection cycle are the ones that just happen to be constructed in odd years that are on the 2-year inspection process. And that works great. However, when you look at budgeting, trying to budget for an unequal balance of funds necessary for inspections, and then receiving those bridge reports, having a whole bunch of maintenance work to do 1 year and then not very much to do the next year, it's difficult to manage at times. And so what the state advised us and helped us with was getting onto a plan that's more consistent every year, where we're basically inspecting half of our structures every single year, and they are willing to help us get into that program. The caveat is that we have to pay upfront the inspection costs one time to get those on that cycle where we're doing half of them every year. Okay. That's what this fee is for Banner Associates to inspect. I think it's 88 structures this year to the tune of $66,100. Will get us on a very manageable program for our bridge maintenance and our bridge maintenance inspections, and we look for your support for this agreement.
Okay. Any questions for DJ? Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to sign the contract between Minnehaha County and Banner Associates. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 12 is a discussion of the realignment of the South Dakota Office of Emergency Management Coordinator's position and the impact on Minnehaha County. Linda Young.
Commissioners, Linda Young, Emergency Management. A couple of weeks ago, we were informed that the Office of Emergency Management was reorganizing the state offices. And at that time, they indicated what it would do for them. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking about how that impacts us, Minnehaha County, and the planning that we work with with the state in different activities, including response, training, exercise, and mitigation, and other efforts. The office has been located within Minnehaha County for the last 25 years, and they are currently going to move it to Mitchell, South Dakota, along with some other reorganization. Just a quick... So as you can see, we're located obviously where the one is, and they would be relocating the office to Mitchell and kind of regrouping. It's my opinion that with the hazards that we have in the county, including obviously the largest county in the state, the fact that we have 5 hospitals within Minnehaha County that we work with, the challenges of the Big Sioux River and the flooding of that, Bakken crude being transported through the county, the interstate, the largest airport, and then other things that I've indicated in the past. I just really feel that it's my position as emergency manager to bring that forward to the commission to allow you to make that next decision. Do we ask the state to reconsider this at the governor's level? And if so, any guidance that you would have for that? Or do we just work with the state and move forward? So as I indicated, like I said, for the past 25 years, this has been the case. We've worked with them, and we haven't had any problems. It's been of great benefit for us to have that regional partnership with the state of South Dakota during different emergency and disaster events that we've all been through. So I'd be willing to answer any questions that the commission might have.
Any questions or comments for Lynn?
Commissioner Heiberger?
Yes.
I would be strongly in favor of asking the governor's office or whoever makes this decision to reconsider this decision, or at least to get a better explanation as to why this decision makes sense. From my perspective, and for the reasons that Lynn stated, I think he made a very compelling argument that it makes a lot of sense to leave that office here in Minnehaha County.
Additional comments? Commissioner Kelly?
I sometimes want, I mean, we're kind of interfering with the department themselves and their organization, and perhaps we could have an objection, but did you say they're going down to 3 districts, Lynn?
Yep. So what they're going to do, actually 3 regional offices. Currently, what they have is they have a person in Rapid City with item 4. They have 2 in Pierre. 1 is, and then they serve 3 and 5. 1 in Mitchell, 1 in Aberdeen, and then 1 in Sioux Falls. The new plan will indicate 2 in Mitchell, 2 in Aberdeen, 2 in Rapid City, with a supervisor located in Mitchell also.
So the area's as big no matter what, whether they're in Sioux Falls or Mitchell. I guess I'm just a little concerned that we, some of our departments have a lot of contact with the agencies in Pierre, and I think with today's electronics and everything, it's not a really big deal. When we start going in and saying, well, we got the biggest hospitals and we got the biggest this and this and this is why the rest of the state has a dislike for us often. And I'm just not sure that this is the battle to get into that we should be interfering with. I would prefer your last deal, is that just go forward, work with them, and make the best we can of it.
Yep, and as I've indicated, whatever the commission decides, we obviously will do what's right to protect and work with the state, but for the citizens of Minnehaha County. But I also felt that as a department head, this was maybe one step above my pay grade, and that's why I needed to bring it to the commission.
Additional comments, Commissioner Barth?
You know, I guess I sympathize with Lynn's suggestion here. I know that when we had that horrible rain and snowfall out west that killed thousands of cattle, that they never even opened the Emergency Management Center in Pierre. I mean, do they really care about what's going on out here? I think having a person here would be better, and I think the potential for disaster is greater here than it is in, say, Harding County. You know, the idea of, and I don't even want to suggest all the disasters that could happen, but with our population and the transportation issues, the infrastructure issues that we have, we could easily have some incredible disasters out this way, and we need Pierre to recognize that it's significant here, not just in Pierre. I think they did open the disaster the emergency center when they had the flooding in Pierre, right?
Yes.
I rest my case.
Additional comments? Commissioner Benega.
Lynn, when this was proposed way back when, I'm assuming this was discussed off and on for a while. Did you have any input into the conversation, or were we asked to have any input?
Absolutely none. The first indication that we had was the email that I forwarded to the commission on April 14th, letting them know, or letting all the counties in South Dakota know that this was going on. Since then, I've had additional conversations with Pierre and just let them know that, you know, I don't think that that was the proper way to notify the counties. You know, we didn't have, you know, any input in the process, and that I thought that was wrong, because not only are the counties their partners, but the citizens within the counties are their, you know, the folks that we're all working for, you know, to make our community and our county safe from all those hazards that, you know, we've discussed. So to answer your question, no, we didn't have any input, Commissioner.
Just a follow-up, does the regional coordinator act as a first responder? What is the responsibility of that individual?
So the main responsibility of that individual is to assist counties in planning, training, exercising, and then yes, he would respond on the state behalf on a list of things that they want more information for. So just recently, in last weekend with the tornado in Delmont, they sent 2 regional coordinators from Mitchell down there right away on Sunday, and those regional coordinators assist with getting state resources lined up, because just like I can only request county resources, then I would make that next request to the state when we're short of resources. They still work for that other level of government, and we would work together to form the direction, but they still would work for the state of South Dakota. They wouldn't work for us directly. So to answer your question, yes, quite quickly in the Delmont area, and that's to ensure adequacy of the response for the community and the citizens, and it's been that way, like I said, for the last 25 years, and it's worked well in this county, and we hope that we can continue it in the future.
If we had some type of disaster in Minnehaha County, both of those people from Mitchell would be coming to Sioux Falls.
That's the understanding that we would have, or that we would request. So yeah, that's what they've indicated to us correctly.
I guess I can kind of see the state's point. If they're going to go to 3 regions and Mitchell is 60 miles from us, if we have a disaster or impending disaster, we're going to call them and they're going to come running, and they wouldn't be 15 miles out of town or 10, they'd be 60. I think that, the numbers may show it in the future. If we're calling them back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, the state's going to say it doesn't make any sense to pay all this gas and all this time and all this extra, and let's just put them back in Sioux Falls. And I'm sure they're concerned about their budgets just the same as we are. That's kind of where I come down on it. If he doesn't have to be here and he can drive back and forth, because if it's for training, he can drive to Sioux Falls and they can pay his hotel bill or whatever, and they may find out that it's more expensive to have him traveling back and forth than to have him here in the city. And maybe not.
And we've had those conversations with the state also that, said, what is the right time frame? And maybe that's the direction from the commission today also, right. is if this isn't working in a year, is then the time to ask them to reconsider. I just had that conversation with them yesterday, what's the right time frame here? So, and who makes that decision once again? Do I track those things? And that's not really what I want to do either, is track their performance. That's not my job. That's the governor's job and the secretary's job. So,
but I think the Mitchell person would know too what's the performance like. Am I spending no time doing any? I mean, if I do have no jobs whatsoever anywhere but in Minnehaha County, and I'm spending 99% of my time in Minnehaha County, then it's kind of a no-brainer.
Correct.
Any additional comments or a motion? Or is it just discussion?
Well, I make a motion that we write a letter to Pierre and suggest that they reconsider this, and keeping in mind our concerns.
Okay, I have a motion to reconsider, send a letter to Pierre and ask them to reconsider. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
I guess my only comment is I'm sure they had rationale for why they did it. I think if we just had clarification from them rather than going through a formal letter writing campaign, if we could get that explanation, they made what they thought was a reasonable decision, and we'd just like some input on what that was.
Okay.
So more of a letter to ask for input and reasoning?
If they would like to provide that, yeah.
Is that all right with the motion in a second?
It's okay with me.
Okay.
Good idea, Joe.
We have a motion and a second just to inquire of the state as to what the reasoning was or the rationale for moving out of Minnehaha County. All those in favor say...
Wait. So we're just simply asking
we're just asking
why.
for the rationale.
We're not saying we think it should be in Sioux Falls.
We're not demanding.
No, we're not demanding anything. We're just asking for rationale as to why they moved the office. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And I would assume that you would bring that letter back to us so that we could approve it and sign it. So, thank you. Item number 13 is to consider a motion to authorize an increase in the Sheriff Department's front desk petty cash fund. Kristen Trana.
Good morning. Kristen Trana with the Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office. I am presenting to you that we would like to increase the amount of petty cash available for making change for things like distress warrants, civil service, pistol permits, fingerprinting, those sorts of services from, to a total of $900 at the Sheriff's Office.
I'll make a motion to increase that from $400 to $900. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 14 is consider a motion to authorize an increase in the Sheriff's Department's alcohol compliance check petty cash fund, excuse me, Kristen Trana.
Similar situation. With the growth of the county and the growth of the number of places that need to be checked, we are increasing the amount of CIs that we're hiring to assisted. What they've been called in the past has been liquor stings, as far as when we send people who are underage an attempt to purchase alcohol. And we've gotten to where we don't feel that we have enough, and so we'd like to increase that total to be available.
I'll make a motion to increase that amount to $700.
A motion, a second. Any additional questions?
Where do you keep all the booze you bought? I'm sorry.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Ken McFarland.
Commissioner, just for a point of clarification on the previous one, and that if that motion could just reflect the increase to 900. Quite frankly, the reason why is because our last official records that we show the last authorization was at 2, not 4.
Okay.
And so by going to 9, that takes care of that.
So item number 13 reflects that total is $900, and item number 14 reflects that it goes to $700. Thank you. Item number 15 is a briefing on the Minnehaha County Ordinance MC 1125 establishing license costs for temporary malt beverage license and temporary liquor licenses. Ken McFarland.
Commissioners, this was, South Dakota statute requires that the counties by resolution establish what the parameters are for issuing special licenses for temporary malt beverage and temporary liquor licenses. You did that back on June 21st, 2011, and you have copies of that particular resolution that was adopted. That current resolution restricts the number of temporary and special licenses up to 6 per year for any organization. When we first drafted that, there was no restrictions on the number of licenses. At that meeting back in June, there was an attempt to change it to 12, and then there, by official action, the commission changed it to 6. And it was my understanding that the reason is because they didn't want somebody to use the special license provisions to avoid having to go out and get a to go through the process to get a normal malt beverage or liquor license. And that, so I was asked to schedule this for consideration. There's been a number of times, and we've had these license issues come up where the issue of the restriction of 6 is out there. And so we were asked to at least raise the issue again to see if there's any desire on behalf of the commission to change that number from 6 to whatever, or to even remove the restriction. We're certainly not requesting today or prepared to make a recommendation today and that on what that should be, whether it should be stay at 6 or whether it should be a certain number or taken off completely. But we wanted to bring the issue and put it back on the table for your consideration because the issue has come up a number of times whenever we've had these discussions. Cindy can tell you all the particulars about, what qualifies for a special license and why, and how that impacts the difference between that and a regular license. But again, we just raised the issue for you as something you may want to take a look at another time. So.
And this was a briefing, and I brought this up just because Commissioner Kelly brought it to my attention in April, and after reading it, I would be interested in, putting it back to 12 or even just removing it, but I would be interested in doing something. This is a briefing, and so if you don't want to take any action on it at all, we will just put on the agenda in a couple of weeks, so I'm just looking for your interest on whether you would like it put on the agenda so we could discuss it.
Well, I think we're going to look at it. Is this 6 per, hello?
That's right.
Yeah.
Is this 6 per like Hy-Vee catering, or is it 6? It's not 6 for the whole county.
No.
So, yeah. And what happens is some of these facilities, like that one out east of town, could end up not being eligible because it goes against them. Is that correct? Cindy?
It's 6 per applicant. So It's the entity that will be selling the malt beverage or liquor, such as the catering companies. Like if they're going out to Crooks Gun Club, it would be that caterer that can only get 6. So really, you're just limiting the caterer's ability to serve at that location only 6 times per year.
And there's no way he can get a full permanent license that rotates his there. So
Well,
he's already.
He could apply for a permanent liquor license through the state, but they're not eligible for a liquor license because they only have a malt beverage. So the state has already restricted who is eligible to receive a special event license dependent upon what state license they currently hold. Or it can be to a civic, charitable, educational, or fraternal organization. But the state is really very restrictive, and it has to be in conjunction with a special event. So it can't just be to open up business on a weekend to have people come in and have a party every weekend at the Crooks Gun Club. It has to be a special event like a wedding reception, a fundraising event for an organization. So the state has really restricted those requirements for issuing special event licenses.
this just frees up the larger caterers to do more events.
Right, to have more than 6.
I think we got to keep in mind this catering business has changed significantly in the last 10 years, and there's a big demand now. And there's
back in 2009, 10, and 11, and 12, we only issued 4 special event licenses. Last year we issued 9, and so far this year we already have 7 issued.
You're also limiting people that want to hire somebody, because if you wanted to hire a caterer and they'd already had their 6 at that, then you'd have to say, well, I have to get a new caterer, and maybe I don't want to get a new caterer. So we are limiting the options of our taxpayers too. But if you are okay with that, we will put it on a future agenda for a motion. Okay, move on to make that be so. Number 16 is Minnehaha County Liaison Assignment Reports. Are there any? Commissioner Barth.
Madam Chair, I went to the East Dakota Water District, and some developments they have. They now have real-time nitrate monitoring in the Big Sioux River. They can tell you where it's at today. They can tell you where it's at after a 1-inch rainfall. They also had a study that came out talking about the flow in the Big Sioux River, and there's a jump up in 1980, and it's never gone back down again. We're not sure if it's runoff from parking lots and paved streets in Sioux Falls or what, but anyway, just kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Any other liaison reports?
Madam Chair, we also had a meeting of the Public Advocates Board. Jean and I were there and went well.
All right. Any new business? Any old business?
Yeah, the district meeting is Friday, and of course we're Thursday, and we're in budget at the same time. And Ken, did you indicate that there might be something coming up at that meeting that could be important to us?
Well, what I was indicating is that there has been some discussion about resolutions that come through the association process for consideration at convention, that they may be much more persnickety and have them come through a district meeting first and to be approved by a district before they go up to the convention. And so if that's the case, that does accelerate the process for us as far as submitting any proposed resolutions. I'm not sure that that's a good idea this year anyway, particularly with the legislature getting ready to do their summer study and seeing what might come out of that particular endeavor. But I just wanted you to be aware that I do think that putting resolutions through at the district meetings and have them approved at the district level is going to be more important going into the future.
I'm on the resolutions committee, and I've not heard a thing about this. So, did your source come out of the middle of the state, or where did you hear that?
Yeah,
that this would okay? All right.
Okay. I would kind of like to keep it on the days that we have set thus far, because we'd like to get them when all 5 commissioners are available and when Ken is still working for us.
And, as far as setting those dates, and that I know that your time levels are tight. I have tried to pencil out how I think we can, and I haven't notified departments yet, and that because I was waiting to confirm the schedule today. But if you confirm today that those are the dates that we're going to do it, on the 10th and the 11th, and that we'll start making those phone calls and slotting all the departments in. But I do think that if we keep to a pretty good tight time frame, we can get the departments in within those 2 days. And even taking a break for lunch.
Yeah.
So
I think we can do it too. I think we've been through it enough times as this group that we can get it done in 2 days, and it'll give us a chance to look at it and come back and discuss it later. So if there's no objections, I'm going to tell Ken to go forward with that. Okay. Then I would look for a motion to adjourn into executive session for personnel, contract negotiations, and legal briefings. We will be reconvening, well, not reconvening, but we will be having a budget overview, preliminary overview session starting immediately following the executive session. So is there a motion?
I'll make that
So
motion.
moved.
I have a motion and a second for executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.